federal agents searched the Gibson guitar plant here in Music City.
Several hundred Gibson guitar employees got to go home early today due to an unusual circumstance, a raid by federal agents.
In August 2011, the Gibson Guitar Corporation was raided by armed agents from the Departments of Homeland Security and Fish and Wildlife. The agents shut down the factory, ordered all employees off the premises, and seized approximately $500,000 worth of wood meant to be used as guitar fingerboards. While no charges have been filed to date, the government accused Gibson of being in violation of the Lacey Act, an anti-trafficking statute originally passed in the 1900s to protect fish and wildlife, but whose scope has expanded several times to include plant life and international trade. The Lacey Act makes it a crime to import illegally taken products, whether that illegality occurs in the U.S. or the country of origin. In this case, the Justice Department contends Gibson used an inappropriate tariff code for the export of guitar fingerboards from India.
India is wanting to ensure that raw wood is not exported without some labor content from India.
Rather than using the tariff code that describes the raw wood as a musical instrument part, which Gibson did, the government's interpretation of Indian law describes the wood as veneer, because the wood is a fraction of an inch thicker. Had the wood in question been slightly more finished before it was exported from India, there apparently would have been no objection from the U.S. government.
It has nothing to do with conservation, and it has nothing to do with how scarce or not scarce rosewood or ebony is. It has to do with jobs. They have raided us, come in with weapons. They seized $500,000 worth of product. They shut our factory down, and they have not charged us with anything at this point.
It's not up to Gibson or any other company to decide which laws in India or Madagascar or whatever country they want to respect. This is an issue about mutual respect for the rule of law around the world, and that's what the Lacey Act says. That's the principle behind the Lacey Act. Gibson has now been raided twice under the Lacey Act. The first time was in 2009, and that was for importing illegally logged wood from Madagascar, allegedly. And then the second raid in August of 2011 was in relation to imports of sawnwood from India.
We escalated our due diligence efforts on wood. I mean, you know, we were pretty sensitized after being raided, so it was shocking that they'd come back. But we have affidavits from both governments that everything that we've done is lawful and by their law.
So both governments have said the transaction was lawful. The U.S. government says it wasn't, but they haven't filed any charges and they won't allow you a day in court to hash this out.
Correct.
The most recent amendment to the Lacey Act, in 2008, includes a regulation called due care, which requires anyone purchasing or possessing a wood product to declare the provenance of every piece of wood in that product.
Say you got a guitar from your dad. When you travel with that guitar, you have to file a Lacey declaration. And that declaration has to have every piece of wood that's in the guitar named by its Latin name and where it came from. Who is going to know that? No one is going to know. I mean, you know, on an older guitar, you're not going to know that. It's ridiculous. If you don't file that form, you're in violation of the Lacey Act and subject to a $100,000 fine and confiscation of the instrument.
Do individual musicians need to worry about the Lacey Act and about declaring their instruments when they cross international borders? The simplest answer is no. The government has officially stated in an almost unprecedented action that the government has no intention to enforce the Lacey Act against individual owners of musical instruments. There has been a real disservice done by some people in not trying to get the truth out about what individuals do and don't have to worry about.
While the government claims they have no interest in prosecuting individual guitar owners, individuals have been charged in the past for obscure Lacey Act violations, like the case of 4 small businessmen convicted of felony conspiracy to smuggle because they brought lobsters from Honduras to the United States in clear plastic bags rather than opaque cardboard boxes as required by Honduran law. Despite the fact that this law was no longer on the books in Honduras, all 4 served time in federal prison. Senator Rand Paul has taken an interest in cases of bureaucratic overreach and addressed the Gibson raid in a congressional hearing.
We, in my office, are proposing a legislative solution. Legislative solutions, unfortunately, are usually prospective and may or may not help you. So we're going to have an amendment to the Lacey Act to remove any provisions that refer to foreign laws.
There is surely a place for laws promoting conservationism, but if the government won't allow Gibson their day in court, how can it justify punitive raids and seizures of private property? And if the government is willing to split hairs over an interpretation of a foreign country's tariff code, how can assurances that individual guitar owners won't be prosecuted under the letter of the Lacey Act be trusted?
It just points out that this is not about responsible forestry and sustainable wood or illegal logging. This is about a bureaucratic law. Think about that. That's a blank check for abuse.